Could you tell us about your charity? When did it start?
Well, I set it up 7 years ago. It wasn't a charity initially, it was just a project, a pilot project. I had this idea that it would be good to try out running gamelan workshops in prisons. It just sort of came to me as an idea, but I kind of knew that it was worth trying because I knew from my own experience of playing gamelan how beneficial it is and how good it is at making you feel part of something bigger, and just how kind of therapeutic it is. It makes you feel better about yourself and about your situation. So I did some kind of research and found out that basically nobody was doing gamelan in prisons. There's quite a lot going on out, in the community, in schools, and maybe with other kind of groups, similar groups, like people with mental health problems or alcohol misuse problems or whatever, but nothing in prison. So I just thought it would be really good to set it up as a pilot project just to see whether it would work. And we did some kind of initial projects in a few prisons back in 2003, and it just seemed to work really well. So it kind of expanded and developed from there. So now it's a proper registered charity in its own right.
Which prison are they?
Which prisons do we work in? Well, loads actually. We've been to about 30 different institutions. Not all prisons, some of them are secure hospitals, but yeah, prisons all over the country, high security prisons and medium secure prisons. So, just to name a few off the top of my head, we've been to Wakefield Prison a lot, Brixton Prison, Wandsworth, Whitemoor Prison, yeah, loads actually, and also secure hospitals like Broadmoor Hospital, Rampton Hospital as well. And then in the last year, we've started working with ex-offenders in the community in probation hostels.
Wow. How did they take it for the first time when they started to play gamelan for the first time?
Well, I think people often sign up for a Good Vibrations course because we run 1 week courses normally. And often they just do it out of curiosity because, obviously most people won't have a clue what gamelan is and what they're going to be doing for a week. So I think often it's a sort of, people sign up out of curiosity, out of boredom. There's nothing else going on. It's a reason to get out of your cell. Or just, they might be into music and they hear it's a music project, so they just sort of turn up. So I think people turn up on the first day and walk into the room and really have no idea what's going to happen. And I think the sight of the gamelan instruments is often quite a big thing for people. It's quite a beautiful sight, and prisons are quite grey, ugly, bleak places by and large. So I think there's quite a kind of initial kind of almost shock at the sight of the gamelan and, what are we going to be doing with this lot? And often the first session it can be quite chaotic because people are just kind of experimenting with the instruments, sometimes bashing the hell out of them. They don't really know why they're there, and there's a lot of, there might be quite a lot of tension, like who else is doing this project with me? How should I be behaving? Who are these people, these Good Vibrations facilitators, who are they? So there's all that going on, but quite quickly normally things settle down, and as people start to experiment with the instruments, they start to, in their own way, they start to understand that, you can't just sit there and bash the hell out of an instrument. It's not really much fun, and it's a horrible racket. So people start to kind of settle down and start to listen to each other really quite quickly, normally in the first session. And normally in the first session, we will teach a traditional Javanese piece, like a simple lancharan, as a way of enabling people to start to kind of learn about using the beaters and damping and how the different instruments sort of fit together. We don't always do that, actually. It depends on the group. Some groups, we may start the week with them just experimenting on the instruments and doing completely free improvisations, if that seems to be what the group wants to do, and maybe only introduce traditional gamelan music later on during the course.
After a few lessons, those people feel okay and they kind of playing together. Could you, how about toward the end, how did they feel about it?
Well, during the course of the week, they'll sort of learn more about working together as a group. They'll maybe create their own compositions using the gamelan instruments. They'll do free improvising and thinking about what works and what doesn't work when you're improvising in a group. They might learn some more traditional music. They might learn a song, traditional song. And then at the end of the week, they do, the group does an informal performance in front of an audience of some of the stuff they've done during the week. And by the end of the week, people are normally feeling really good about what they've learned and what they've achieved. So they'll be feeling a real sense of achievement and a real sort of sense of confidence that they've embarked on this 1 week course having known nothing about gamelan, not even what it is, and gone through the week, applied themselves, concentrated, worked as a group, and then created something beautiful that they can then perform in front of an audience. And that's a really big thing. I mean, it's a big thing for anybody, but particularly for a lot of prisoners who, by and large, are people that have never really succeeded at anything positive in a group before. So this was a first for a lot of them. Performing in front of an audience is a first for a lot of people as well. And so people feel really great at the end. And that sort of feeling carries on for a while. We've sort of tracked people afterwards. We've actually employed academic researchers to track people 12 months, 18 months after doing a Good Vibrations course, and they find that all the kind of benefits of doing a Good Vibrations course, so things like learning about team working and listening, learning about working as a group, having better relationships with other people, all those things are still there 12, 18 months after doing the course. The feeling of kind of calm that a lot of prisoners tell us they get out of doing gamelan. They find it soothing, relaxing, it relieves stress, calms them down, helps them deal with feelings of anger. Those feelings are still there 12 to 18 months on as well. And the kind of confidence that people get out of having achieved something really positive from doing a Good Vibrations course kind of motivates them to do other things as well. And that's really important because a lot of the people we work with are the kind of more difficult people in prisons. So they're not the ones that are already sorted and doing education and on the right track. We tend to work with the ones that are a bit more difficult and resistant and hard to reach. And they get this kind of feeling of confidence and motivation to do other positive things. And that, again, that carries on, we found, 12, 18 months afterwards.
Wow, gamelan gave them good effect.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And certainly, you know, we wouldn't still be here 7 years on working in prisons if that wasn't happening and if we couldn't prove it, because, you know, prisons are not easy places to work, and the institutions can be quite kind of cynical and sceptical about this sort of thing. So we have to, you know, we have to have pretty good evidence that what we do really works in order to be able to carry on.
I forgot to ask you, how did you feel when you're teaching in prison for the first time? Were you scared or?
Well, I have to be clear, I don't actually teach gamelan. I know my strengths and weaknesses, and my strengths are not, I think, teaching. So, and there are lots of really, really good gamelan teachers around. So when I set up Good Vibrations, I made sure that I took on people as part of the team who are very good gamelan musicians, gamelan teachers, and basically good facilitators of groups. And my role is more about the kind of management and enabling the projects to happen, setting them up, going in and kind of making sure things are organised well. And then afterwards coming in for the last, I normally go in on the last day for the final performance and kind of swan about and maybe take part in the performance and, you know, chat up the governor or whatever. So I don't teach. But the first few projects we did back in 2003, well, the very first one, I did go in for the first couple of days with the two facilitators that I'd taken on to deliver the workshops. And the first project we ever did was at Wakefield Prison, which is quite a well-known high-security prison. And I do remember feeling quite nervous on the Monday morning going in, because I mean, I had been to a couple of prisons before as a visitor. I'd never been to a high-security prison before. This was my first. I hadn't managed to go to Wakefield Prison in advance of the project. I'd done all the kind of arrangements on the phone. So I was there on the gate on Monday morning with Nikki and Cathy, who were the two facilitators. And I do remember feeling quite nervous just about being in a high-security prison, and also like how was it going to work? How was gamelan going to go down with a bunch of guys who, you know, are amongst the most difficult and dangerous in the UK prison population. And it wasn't really helped by the fact that we were given a security briefing by an officer who I think was deliberately kind of winding us up, because we were sort of told all these things about what to do if you're taken hostage and all these kind of like, and so that kind of made me even more nervous. But I remember the guys coming into the workshop. It was a kind of big prison industries workshop where we'd set up the gamelan, big echoey room, and these guys kind of filed in, and the looks on their faces when they saw the gamelan all set up for them, and then Nikki and Cathy encouraging them to sit in the gamelan and teaching them a lancharan, and it just went brilliantly, and the guys really enjoyed it. Even that first session was fantastic, and so yeah, it was nerve-wracking. The first time was very nerve-wracking, and I still get quite nervous in advance of projects, even now. Not nervous because I'm nervous about meeting the prisoners or nervous about how good vibrations will go down with them. It's now nervous about the institutions, and I know how chaotic and dysfunctional a lot of prisons are. So I'm always nervous about the sort of organisational side of things, which can be very, very difficult.